I don't understand when someone with that kind of gift goes, maybe you didn't know you could sing?
It's so hard to uplift people these days because the pride and the ego is growing so big.
You are hurt. You're not happy. And you keep selling me that you're happy. And I keep buying this lie. And you're just making it's getting worse and worse and worse.
In entertainment, people tend to promote pain as jewelry.
Hey, it's Rich, and you're listening to the Mature Me podcast, weekly content devoted to all things life, leadership, culture, and faith. Thank you for taking some time to tune in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Mature Me podcast. My name is Rich Wilkerson Jr., and wherever you are at in the world, we are so grateful that you're tuning in. Maybe you're watching by way of YouTube, or you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music. However you are consuming this content, I want to let you know I'm so grateful. Thank you for your support. Go ahead, share it, like it, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. We love getting your feedback. This is the podcast that we talk all things life, faith, leadership, even culture. And here at Mature Me, that's what we're trying to do. We don't just want to grow old, we want to grow up. We're trying to become something more than what we are even right now today. And I'm excited because we've had some great guests on Mature Me, but today I'm really looking forward to who we're talking to. This is a new friend of mine, but I am a big fan of his music. You probably know his music as well. I am talking about none other than the man, the myth, the legend. This is Mr. Pink Sweats, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay.
The clapping. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
How are you, sir?
I'm amazing, dude.
Man, I'm so grateful that you would even come on today.
Why wouldn't I? I was like, yo, what? You invited me? I'm like, I'm coming.
What I love about you is that, number one, you actually live out your name. Every time I see you, you're in pink. But today you took it to another level because you came in with some sort of juice drink.
Sea moss.
And I said, I'm like, is this, you drink this every day? And you said,
first time.
Day one. This is some day one stuff.
But it's fire, though.
And where'd you get this at?
I got this at the gym. It's called G-Force.
You got this at G-Force? And they charge you what for that?
$20. It's like a jar this big.
You're like, what's this thing going to do for me for $20?
I want to see.
Cures cancer, cures diabetes, cures arthritis.
They make crazy claims.
They do, right?
Yeah, they make crazy claims.
Do you get really into like health stuff like that, or do you get into like products, or you ever do some like crazy diet stuff?
No, I don't really believe in any of that stuff. I believe that like listening to my body and how things react, because you just realize like different things don't work for everybody, dude. Like I've taken some stuff and it's like I'm like bent over, like, ew, what's happening? It's like, oh no, you'll be all right. You just gotta stick with it. It's like, no, I'm gonna die.
What compelled you on the way out of the gym today to buy the $20? Is it sea moss? So
I've been plotting on it, but because I when I go to the gym, I typically don't bring cash. So I'm going in and I keep seeing it in the wind. I'm not even thinking of how much it costs. I'm thinking probably max $10. And I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow. And then today was tomorrow.
Today was tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And you went ahead and made the investment.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I'm so happy that you're here. Maybe people that are watching today aren't all the way familiar with who you are, but singer, songwriter, have made some incredible records of your own, as well as written for so many great artists. Let's just take everyone back a little bit, and let's just get some of the origin story of Pink Sweats. How you grew up, how you got to where you are today. Let's go.
So I'm a church kid, PK, couple generations in. Honestly, my life is very much conception, birth, church, and then like that's it. Like honestly, like for 20 plus years, I didn't even really understand like regular life. I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Like I'm in like biology class arguing with the teacher, like, this doesn't make any sense. My dad said, like, so yeah, super church kid. But I always been like curious, and I feel like I always wanted to know what is going on. So I'm like, I became like super observant of like human interactions everywhere that I went, like in church, at school. I would study like how people interact with each other, and through that I learned to communicate. through music, because I didn't really, that was like the binder of like life for me, because I heard the word in church, but when you're a kid you don't know what they talking about, but you do feel something when that music hits. And that started me early with music and just understanding the power. And like my parents, they would always just tell me like, yo, be conscious of what you're listening to, because it plays out in different ways, because you know that's a tool of God or the devil, depending on what you're rocking with, and the energy that is susceptible to you in your bloodline. Because somebody could listen to something and it affects them nothing at all, but you might have a bloodline where like you suffer from addiction, like that's just a thing. So if you listen to drug music, you might, it's just like, for me, I grew up that way. Like everything's being like taught into my head, and not in like a bad way, but just like I was very mature young. So like I didn't do a lot of things that my friends were doing. And then when I did, I knew exactly what I was doing. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna do some bad stuff. Awesome.
You were a very conscious sinner.
Very conscious.
You knew when you were going against the word
yeah,
of
I'm
God.
like, oh yeah, we lit. Let's go.
Some people just kind of fall in trouble. You're like, no, I walked right into
yeah.
it. No, that was a conscious step.
Pretty much.
So tell me what city you grew up in. And your dad was a pastor?
Philly. I grew up in Philly. Yeah, my dad's a pastor. He doesn't pastor anymore. He's retired. My grandfather was a bishop in Philly. But we come from like Kojic background.
Yeah.
But he's also retired now. My great grandfather was a very prominent bishop in Philly. So yeah, we just
So you grew up going to church, and it was in church that you discovered your love for music, or that you were musical?
Yeah.
Did you play in church? You sing in church?
I played drums.
Because that'd be the dopest church ever to go.
Yeah.
Pink Sweats is the worship leader.
I wasn't singing. You know why I didn't sing in church? And it's funny because when I got older, I would start singing like on like little YouTube stuff here and there, and people were like, yo, you should sing. And I'm like, I'm not really living right though. Like I feel bad. Like I'm like one of those people, I'm all in, or I'm like I'll tilt back. But like I just took God so serious. I'm like,
I shouldn't be out
I
there singing
can't do
because
that.
I felt convicted.
Yeah, me personally, I don't judge anybody that was doing it, but me, I just like, I can't do that. Like I just left the strip club last night. I'm coming to church. I'm like, I can't minister y'all in this state. So for me, that was it was just me being real with myself.
Sure. So what did you do in church?
I play drums.
You're a drummer?
Yeah, I'm a drummer.
Come on.
That's my first instrument. Yeah.
I've heard it said before that like kids when they're young, if you want them to be musical, have them play the drums first. Is that true? Tell me why that's so important, because it's a foundational.
It's the first things you do. Like you ever see kids just like rhythm, that's like the first, in language. So people think of language in like this overly complex way. It like what we're saying to somebody that doesn't speak English sounds like nothing, but it's the cadence of the words that you become familiar with that it's like, oh, he's saying X, Y, and Z. That's why kids can adapt to languages way easier than like when you're an adult, because they're not conscious of what's happening. It's just downloading into them. You're downloading the way that the people move their hands when they're saying what they're saying. We live in Miami, so you ever been speaking to somebody and you can't say the words that they're saying, but you knew what they were saying.
Yep.
Like you're like, how did I know what they meant? It's something subconscious about the rhythm and like the beat of like how your mouth is moving that's just so
Very
natural.
Do you still play drums today?
Yeah. I do.
You ever do it out on tour, or you ever do it in your shows?
I do it every now and then. I'll pull out my drum kit. It's fun, man. That's like my happy place. Like whenever, like even like some of my fans, they be like, yo, like he just smiled. Like I'm just on the drums, like a little kid. It's fun.
It's a different role to play.
Yeah.
Leading and being the front man versus holding down the foundation of the entire band playing drums. Both very, very
music
important.
guy here. You getting to it.
Well, I'm saying very important roles, but two different roles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Facts.
two different plays, two different positions. And sometimes it's unique when you find somebody who's got a grace to do both those things. Do you know a name, Don Henley? From the Eagles. He used to play, he wrote
he's
Hotel
a pocket
California.
guy.
He'd play the drums and he could sing. I was like, that's kind of cool to see one of those drummers like singing on that stuff.
Phil Collins was my guy.
Phil Collins, yep.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters. These are other names.
See, that's what I'm saying. You know
He
what
played
you're
Nirvana,
talking
bro.
about.
He played Nirvana.
You know.
I don't know if I know, but
Most people don't know these names.
well, they're good names. They're
That's
good
why I'm
names.
like, wait, you throwing them
So,
out there.
talk to me a little bit about you're growing up in church.
Yeah.
Do you believe in God? Do you love God? Are you like, I'm not down with none of this? See you, Dad. Dad makes me go to church. Mom makes me go to church. No, I love going to church.
No, so honestly, my dad was very good at helping me develop my own faith system.
Yeah.
Like since, I'll tell a story. When I was 7 years old, or six or seven, I had a class trip, and I just assumed because my parents that they would just pay for it. I'm like, oh yeah, we going on a trip. He's like, who going on a trip? I'm like, the class. He's like, I'm not paying for that. He's like, you better have some faith. And like, that's like one of the running jokes in our family. And ever since then, I've just always had this like impenetrable faith system that like, oh, like I'm empowered by God to do whatever it is that I need to get done. And when I remember, I found some calendars at my church, and they were just giving them away because my grandpa had like a pretty sizable church, and they would do like a lot of charity stuff. And one of the things they randomly had was calendars. So I took the box in faith and I sold them, and I made like $200, and I was like 6 or 7, and like I paid for the trip. And ever since then I was like, oh. And my dad was always keen on teaching me that like faith without works is dead, pretty much. Like I can't just sit there and be like, oh God, give me the money. So I
just waiting on the Lord.
Yeah, waiting on the Lord. So at that age, ever since then, it was just always there. Like I always felt like a strong connection to like what I was being taught.
And so as you're growing up in church, talk to me about from church, like how do you become Pink Sweats? Like what are some of those steps? What are some of those moments of growth that today you are an artist that's making such high caliber music that so many people are consuming and listening to? Yeah. What were some of those twists and turns, pivots, and maturing moments?
I hate when I say because I did a speechless person and now I'm conscious of it. But I have like this crazy dynamic. I grew up in church, but I also, we lived in the hood. So I had like a lot of different influences, but it would be like key things, and like how I just told you about my dad with the faith and that. In that same age, I held my first gun in the park. So it's like some older kid was like 13, had like this revolver, and he was showing it off, and he let me hold it. And I just remember thinking like he was so cool. Like I just was like, dang, like this dude's a gangster. Like he's dope. He probably had like $21 bills or something, who knows. But I just thought that was so cool that like this kid came across like all the images that I was seeing in my neighborhood. And my dad told me randomly, I don't think he never knew about this story, but it was like around the same time. He's like, if you ever go to jail, I'm not coming to see you. I'm like, that sounded harsh, but I think something in his spirit just knew that like I was kind of being overly curious about something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. So that sent me on a path with music as a kid, like listening to lyrics and then observing my community and how it was affecting the people around me. Because at first it's just my parents just being parents, you know. Oh, don't listen to this, don't listen to that. And I would listen to the words, and then I would watch my peers, 8, 9, 10, starting to do the same things they were listening to. So by the time I became like my 20s, I jumped into the music industry, and I was writing honestly, I was writing every kind of song you think, because I just was trying to get money. I'm like, oh, this is like the industry, you have to do this. And then I kind of hit a wall. I was like, I'm tired
write anything that you're like really not proud of now?
Lots of things.
Really?
Yeah. It was funny because I was talking to this girl at my church, and I brought her to the studio, and it was like this crazy raunchy song. And I don't know why I played this song.
Like, let me play you this song.
Yeah, she was like, oh my God, like, is this who you really are? And I was like, nah, it's just music. It's just music. And I was like, I felt so stupid.
You were like these two divided things. Like, I'm over here behaving this way, and I'm also putting this out.
So for me, I hit a wall and everything. It's like when the Bible says, like, train them young, when they get older, they won't depart. I call that early science. I'm like, the Bible's early science. It's humans, very particular creatures. God made us in a certain way. So all the teachings just came back to me at once, and I was just like, that's not me. Like, I really am a person who I'm filled with love. I want to be in love. I don't want to be outside, like, on that type time. And everything changed. I was like, yo, I don't make a love song, and I don't want to reference anything sexual at all. And I just want to see how this goes. And I wrote the song, and I got scared to put it out. So I was trying to, like, shop it around. And then one of my buddies, he was finding, like, somebody that was going to sing it. And I kind of had this crazy dream. And I woke up, and I'm like, bro, I need my song back. And he was like, why? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like this is my song. Like, I never felt that way before about, like, you know, when you're a songwriter, you're a hired gun, essentially. So I never had attachment to songs, but for some reason, I had an attachment to the song. And when I talked to my friends, who at the time we were just friends, now they're my manager and my team, I was like, yo, I just feel like this song's special. And it was like, okay. So we did it, released it on our own independently. And that song, it's called Honesty. Changed my life. Independent record. I own that outright. And it was crazy because at the time, nobody believed that you could be, a black artist singing about love in 2018 at the time. That just wasn't a thing. Like, you wasn't going to hear that on a mass level. And that's what everybody was telling me. Like maybe you should put a little bump and a little beat to it. And I'm like, no. Like, why? Why can't I want people to hear what I'm saying and connect to it? And I ended up writing that song. And dude, it just went crazy, and it reaffirmed everything that I was thinking. And like, so many people have come to me like, yo, like, I relate to that song. Like, I'm afraid to fall in love and X, Y, and Z. And the conversation of the story was just so pure and vulnerable. And I felt like God wanted me to do that at that specific time because I needed to hear that song. So it's kind of like I'm writing a song to myself.
Yep.
And it was a beautiful moment, and it continuously gives, honestly.
Well, I think one of the powerful things too about it is, I think so much of life is trying to get our self to be integrated, mind, body, soul, spirit. And we live in a world that so wants to divide us, and so it's got you out there. Oh, I think this is what the culture wants to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a song and a dance for the culture, but it's not actually honest with who I am.
Yeah.
So here's now the song that is actually integrated with, this is the direction I want my life to go. This is where I want to head. And when I put that out, that's the thing that connects, because authenticity actually is what connects to people. Even that verse that you're saying, like, train up a child in the way that he should go. When he's old, he won't depart from it. Of course, the context of that verse is about training a child up in the ways of God.
Yeah.
But that verse works in both directions.
That's why I say early science.
So many kids get trained up in promiscuity, in dishonesty. What you watch is what you learn. And that's why it's so important that when you're growing up in a family, it's like, if you don't see two parents together, oh, you learn divorce.
Yeah.
Oh, you learn that when it gets difficult, we yell at each other. You learn when it gets difficult, I go to the bottle, I go to the pills. Because what I watch is what I learned. That's why a lot of people, when it comes to like love, all they ever watched was Disney movies. And like the only thing they ever saw was like, oh, this is what love's supposed to feel like and be like. It's like, nah, bro, you didn't marry Jasmine, and your husband's not Simba. He's a lion, by the way. So it's like, what you watch is what you learn. And it's so important that your parents were, whether or not you were always living that out or not, the word, the truth of God is putting something into you that as you get older, it's like, oh, you come back around to these deep, timeless truths. One of the things I wanted to ask you about that's maybe a little bit dense, but maybe you can break it down for me. How does, like, when you were saying, like, I'm shopping a song out, this is like some like lingo that at first you began as a songwriter.
Yeah.
Talk about those two different kind of roles as well. Like, how does one start as a songwriter? What was your first, like, I don't know if you're allowed to tell or not, but like you gave a song to somebody that was like, oh man, this is a real like artist that people is on the radio or something. How do you go there before you become an artist? Or how does someone become an artist before they become a songwriter? Like, is there anything you can...
It's tough, man. I would say it always varies. So for me, my journey, I never wanted to be an artist. Like, I played with it because I thought that was what people did. It's like, oh, you in the hood, like, people rap, everybody do something musical. But I never wanted to be up front. I like being on the drums and, like, zoning out, nobody really paying me too much attention. So I stepped into songwriting as a way to hide, essentially.
Okay.
I'm like, yo, I don't really want to be people in my business and, like, my personal life, because I was thinking of, like, living a double life. So I was, even though I was, like, outside, I'm like, dang, like, I don't want to feel like I'm living a double life, so I'm going to just stay back here. And I wrote, oh my God, I wrote so many songs, dude. Like,
how did you learn how to songwrite? Like, same thing, just chart? Like,
dude, I can't tell you.
That's a gift.
I cannot tell you. I literally showed up to the studio one day to vocal reference something, which is a whole other thing, which is like when somebody else writes a song.
Yeah.
And they might not be a good singer, so they just get you to sing it.
Yep.
So a guy that I went to church with, he was like, yo, like, because my mom's a gospel singer. And he was like, yo, like, I know you can sing. Like, you got to be able to sing. And I'm like, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, let's try it. You know what I'm saying? So when I went, the song wasn't finished. So I only sung, like, the first half of the song. And
I got to stop you because when you say maybe I can maybe sing,
bro,
I've
my
heard you
family
sing.
is crazy
I don't
good, dude.
understand. I always make this joke. Like, if I could dunk, bro, after the first day I met you, I'd be like, hey, man, let's go downstairs. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take my shirt off, and I'm going to dunk. Like, I'm that guy. And so if I could sing with you, I'd be like, oh, good. Nice to meet you. My name's Rich. Oh, I would go into song every time. I don't understand when someone with that kind of gift goes, maybe. You didn't know you could sing?
Bro, I didn't. So, look, imagine that same scenario, right? Let's just say, hypothetically, you got a brother that's 6'7". Bunnies.
Yeah.
You never dunked before, but you seen him do it, and you think, maybe I could do that? Like, I don't know.
Good
but, like,
point.
we got the same parents, you know what I'm saying? So, like, everybody in my family is really good at singing, and, like, I don't think that I might be biased. I don't think there's nobody can sing better than a gospel singer.
I agree
Like,
with that.
moving the crowd is, like, I learned all that stuff through watching, but, like, the ability, like, to use your voice to change people's mood and uplift their spirits, like, that's to me the ultimate, like, feeling of, like, being like, I was able to use my gift to not burden someone but unburden them. Like, for that 5 minutes or whatever that situation is, that's cool. Like, I think that's probably my Achilles heel in the music industry, is that I care about making people feel good. I don't want anybody to, like, kids to listen to my song and be like, oh, my kid was doing drugs because of you, or I just think too deep into those kinds of things. And
It's beautiful.
it is beautiful, but it's just it's like the person of me is, like, amazing. The business of me is like, dang, like, should I? Like, even though I know the answer is no, but it's still there. It lingers. Or you go like, do they even care? It's almost like people don't know. And I think for me, because I was raised to understand, it's like one of those ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And I feel like I struggle, like, I talk to my wife, I struggle with me interfering with people's bliss. And I don't know. I don't always know if that's, like, a good or bad thing when I'm revealing the truth, you know?
I think the way that you are, the gift that you have, sometimes it might take an audience a little while longer because they are we're so temporary, like, in our thinking. In fact, this morning when I woke up, my sister-in-law sent me this chart, and it's by Seth Godin, who's a writer that I like. And it's talking about, the whole premise of the chart is that we live in the dopamine, like, we're addicted to dopamine. In fact, I think we can bring it up. Let me see if I can read some of this stuff. This is the rise of the dopamine culture. Okay, so it's over here. So watch this. This, I think, pertains to what it is that you are talking about. So, for instance, in athletics, the slow traditional culture is first to play a sport. The fast modern culture is to watch a sport. But the dopamine culture is to gamble on a sport.
Wow.
Journalism, slow traditional culture, newspapers, fast modern culture, multimedia. Dopamine culture, clickbait, Video,
Wow.
slow traditional culture, film and TV, fast modern culture, video, dopamine culture, reels or short videos. Here comes music, slow traditional culture, albums. The fast modern culture, tracks. The dopamine culture, TikToks. You can keep going through this whole category.
That's crazy.
What I would say as you're speaking right now is like, I think you're tempted to probably play into the dopamine culture. You're tempted to go, let me just give some kind of low-hanging fruit. Let me sing about some ratchet thing, some raunchy thing, some flesh thing. But man, it doesn't produce the results that you're looking for. Ooh. I think what you're looking for is you want to give truth. You want to actually connect. The scripture says deep calls to deep.
Wow.
And so a lot of people are so caught up going so fast. Like the Bible says, be still and know that I'm God. Most people don't know God, not because God is a speaking problem, but because we have a speed problem. We don't slow down. And so what you're tempted is in this fast-paced culture to try to pick up the speed. But what your music's actually doing is trying to slow it all down. That's why when you're up with just a guitar, it's like, bro. So I'm trying to commend you.
Hit the nail on the head there.
I'm trying to commend you. Like, no, that might be your flesh and spirit tug. That like, oh, here's the flesh calm. But the real fruit of what you're looking for is over here in these deep waters. Yeah. And you actually revealing your spirit and you actually, I think, ministering to people.
That's good. And I think also to music reference it, it's like a such thing as like a frequency overload where like if you're a producer and you're making like you're orchestrating the music, if you put too many instruments in it and it's not properly placed, it sounds clutter and mud. So my intention is to strip things away so that you can actually be conscious of what you're hearing and also you can actually hear it. Because a lot of times, that's like if somebody's in the other room and they're yelling some words, you can't really hear it. You're conscious that something's happening, but you can't actually hear it. Yeah. Like, I don't know what, I just hear noise. And I think like sometimes with God, like that's how people are. We fill our 24/7 with sounds and noise. And it's like, well, how could you hear anything if you're always, I'm going to listen to this podcast and I'm going to put on this music and then don't let it be contrasting to the way you actually want to become. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you listen to podcasts about stuff that you're not really actually trying to do. You listen to music that can contrast in a negative sense to who you want to become 24/7. And some people listen to music when they going to sleep. And I'm like, you can't even think. Like, that's insane to me. And I make music, and that's weird to me.
Well, people are always asking, like, how do I hear the voice of God? It's kind of simple. If you want to turn up his voice, you got to turn down the noise. Yeah. And we live in a noisy, noisy world. And I think being an artist of any sort that you're trying to bring something and present something, grabbing people's attention, that's the hardest thing, right? Is that someone giving you their attention is a great gift in 2024 because there's a lot of things that are vying for our attention. I want to go back to this story that you're in the studio. I cut you off completely.
No. We were
people
good.
Are always
it was
getting
a good
on me because
segue.
I always cut people off. But like, you don't know you can sing or you don't think you're that great of a singer. Really and you're going to go into this thing to lay down a vocal because we're talking about you becoming a songwriter and also like the difference between a songwriter and an artist.
So did I say that I went...
You went to lay down this track.
Okay, so I went to lay down the track. The track wasn't finished. So they had written the song up to a certain point. And I'm very impatient to a degree. When I feel like I can just get it done, I'm going to get it done. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking and they're like getting their pens and their pads. And I'm like, bro, let me just try. Because now I started the session at 12 a.m. So now it's probably like 4. I'm tired. I'm new to the industry. I'm not used to being up these weird hours. So I'm like, let me just give it a shot. So I go into the booth, play the beat, and I just, based on what was already there, I added the second verse and all that stuff. And when I stepped out the booth, everybody was like, yo, how long you been doing this? And I'm like, it's like really like my first time doing this outside. Like, I've always been good with words. Like, I used to always win like writing competitions and stuff when I was in school. But I didn't think it was one of those gifts where you don't think anything of it because it wasn't. Nobody cared. Like in my neighborhood, nobody cared about being like, oh, he's like the top writer or he's good at math. Nobody cared. They like, yo, do you got that swag? You got that drip. Like that's all that mattered where I was from. So I never even paid attention. And then my dad showed me a letter from my school where the principal did a handwritten letter. It was like, yo, your son has the highest written exam like in the whole school. And I was like, dang, like it's crazy how things unravel that way. So that I think it stems from just my affinity for communication. Like I told you earlier, like I watch and observe people and I'm like very good at stripping things back. So like that could be annoying to like people who don't want to like go deep. Like if somebody says something to me, I'm like, but that doesn't, you don't really mean that. You really mean this. And they're like, no. And then it takes an hour and then they be like, yeah, you're right. Like it was that. Like that's who I am at the core. Like I look at things, I'm like, cause I'm honest with me. And it's once you become honest with you just see everything super clear. And you just, and it doesn't have to be in a judgmental way. It's just an observation. It's like, oh, that's a plant. It's not, oh, that's a plant, needs to burn. It's like, nah, that's a plant. Nice plant. Cool. Like, so that's that's what like all mix my music because I'm always trying to reveal people what I believe is the most important thing is love because that's all people want, man. Like, I never met a person that was like, I don't want somebody to care about me. They might act that way, but the goal is they want somebody to love them. They want to feel like they matter to somebody. It's a human thing, and we somehow in our society, we forget that.
You said something that's really, really, I think, profound to me, and especially when it comes to this idea of maturing and growing. You talked about that you, as a young kid, are off the charts in reading or writing, but you're not really in a culture or in a space that it's being celebrated.
Yeah.
This is important because what I have learned is that what gets celebrated is what gets repeated.
Ooh.
And so what's even challenging for you is like when you're an artist or you're someone who's making music, it's like, oh, that song gets celebrated. I got to do more songs like that.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful, we can keep disintegrating ourselves. One of the things that's really interesting about the Bible, there's a bunch of different times where like Jesus will do a healing. There's one I can't remember. It's Mark. Maybe it's Mark 6. Jesus heals this man who's blind. And the scripture says before he heals him, he takes him outside of the village. Then when he heals him, he says, don't go back to the village.
Come on.
I used to always read that and be like, why did he say don't go back to the village? Like, this is going to be good news. The people from the village are the ones that brought Jesus to the man. It's like, but he says, don't go back to the village. And my thought on it, or my take on it, is that he doesn't say don't go back to the village because the village is bad. I think he says don't go back to the village because the village is big. And I put big in quotation marks because what I know about big things is that big things only know how to celebrate big things. And sometimes big things celebrate the wrong big thing. And I think the reason why he didn't send him back to the village is because he's going, if you go back to the village, they're all going to go, oh, yay, you're blind and now you can see. But that wasn't the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle was that now you met Jesus. And it's great you got physical sight, but you got spiritual sight. And the village only knows how to celebrate the physical sight. They don't know how to celebrate the spiritual sight.
Yeah.
It's like people don't show up to practice and celebrate. Yay. People don't show up to the rehearsal. Go, oh my gosh, big sweats, you're rehearsing. Or to the songwriting session.
Just my wife.
Well, that's why you listen to her.
Party of one.
Party of one. That's why you listen. That's why she gets more voice and influence in your life, because the crowd just shows up for once the thing's all done. It's like, oh, wow, do another one.
Yeah.
And I think there's something powerful about that because, I don't know, I'm even just thinking about my own life. Like, I want to be careful that I'm not just following the celebration, because sometimes the celebration is wrong, and sometimes they don't.
And the celebration feels good sometimes, so it's
totally
hard. You fighting against yourself because you're like, yo, I want to, but I know I shouldn't.
But you're a prolific writer, and it's like, but you're more worried about what your fit is that day, as opposed to going, man, I'm 8 years old. I wish someone was really telling me how good of a writer I am, because you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to unlock for someone who's listening right now, and even for myself, like, be careful with what celebration you're getting. We all need celebration. I'm for celebration.
Yeah.
But are you celebrating the right thing? Because I'm going to repeat maybe the wrong thing based upon your celebration.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me that you had this
That's
gift.
deep.
You know what I mean? Like,
shout out to my pops, man. I feel like my dad was, he just gave me that gift. Like, I feel like that was like, he never was like, here, son, here's some money, here's this. The thing he had was, hey, I'm going to pass you my God. And I feel like the older I get, the more impactful that is. Because it's like, whatever he was believing, he thought that much of it to give it to me. It's like, yo, this is how I live, and I think you could take it even further with the insight, all the mistakes that he's made. It's like, here, I'm going to pass you the ball. You seen my play. Don't do that. You got the book earlier, and you got the playbook to the point where you can comprehend it earlier. So I'm like, oh, we lit. So like, I'm very churchy in the sense of like tradition, where it's like these are things, there's certain things in church you just learn. It's just like when people say God is good, and they're like, oh, that's how, yeah, like that's churchy to me. That doesn't make you go into heaven or hell. Right. That's churchy things. But in real life, I'm like tapped in. Like I think I'm very conscious and cautious at the same time of saying like when I'm hearing God. Because it always has to match up to me, because I take that serious. I'm like, yo, am I hearing this? Am I hearing that? And I've learned to be more confident with that, because understanding the Bible is also understanding the time before the Bible. The Bible wasn't around when Abraham. So people think a lot of times you got to be doing everything right to hear from God. We don't know what Abraham was getting into. So it's like, once I cleared myself of that.
We know he did some stuff that wasn't in the Bible.
Right. So I think for a lot of people probably at home, where it's, you think you're having an issue hearing from God because, oh, I didn't do these 10 things. That's religious. That's not, that's made up. You really can hear from God when you just sit still, be quiet, and don't run from that voice. Because sometimes God's saying things we don't really want to hear. Like, I didn't want to be no artist. I was like, when I tell you I was running the opposite way, like, people would literally offer me money, and I was broke. I'm talking about like account on negative. Oh, overdraft 35. Like, dang. People offer me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Bro, just be an artist. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I have zero desire. And then when it clicked, and you know what's funny? I used to always make a joke. I'm like, I'm never going to be an artist unless it's easy. And then when I say it was easy, it was almost like God was like, now what? I'm like, dude, now I have to do it.
So tell us that story a little bit. You're in that studio. This unlocks, I can write songs. You start writing songs.
I write like 1,000 songs. So, probably like a 5 to 7 month period, I wrote like at least 1,000 songs.
Really?
I was addicted. Like, I was just like, oh my God, just anything I could write. I'm like writing country songs. I'm writing rap songs. I'm writing freaking rock. Like, anything that I could get my hands on. I was addicted to just like making and creating something.
How does that song get to an artist?
So usually it's like somebody you know. And that's the crazy thing about the music business. It's always connection based. So it's like, if you're, you might not even be into music, but you might just have a homie who is Justin Bieber, hypothetically. You're like, yo, Justin's my boy. I'm like, oh, shoot, I have this song I think he would sound great on. Pass it to you. You pass it to Justin. Justin's like, oh, this is awesome. It's super simple. It's not really that complex. It's just more so getting through the barrier of entry where people feel like it's mutually beneficial. Because
Justin was the one who put me onto you.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
Probably 2019.
That's dope.
He was the one who told me about you, and that's how I started listening to you, was because of him.
That's fire.
That's cool.
Appreciate it.
It's not a bad endorsement.
No, not at all.
It's
great guy.
like if he likes it, I'm like, it's probably pretty
good
good
stuff. That's sick.
So, like, is there a story you can tell where, like, the first time a major artist had one of your songs, you're like, this
I'll
is
tell
cool.
one that's public.
Yeah.
Because obviously.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about stuff that's not public because I don't know what the lies they told already.
Of course.
But I worked honestly. So Justin was on my mood board for like, he's like the pinnacle of like working with because like he's the biggest artist in the world, and
Best.
I ended up working on a song with him, and to me that was like the stamp. I was like, yo, like
This was a big
and
moment.
it was a gospel song. So I was like, yo, that's crazy. And then we did another song, but it was just super cool because I'm like, yo, I didn't see this example. Like I became in my idea everything that I wish I saw.
Whoa.
Like growing up as a kid, Christianity looked different. You know, like when you were like it was different. And I don't like to speak and say that was a negative thing, but it just was different. Like as a young kid, the things that naturally pull you in at church, they don't. It's like a bunch of older people look like they've been through bad life already. Like my church when I was young, everybody was young. Like my deacons were like 30. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, that's when I started to understand, oh, it's the connection because the age gap sometimes can be so big.
Sure.
Where the language barrier and how you speak to each other and the thing and how you relate, it just becomes hard. And for me, I never saw a church kid come from where I'm from, make love songs, work with Justin Bieber, then do a gospel song with Justin Bieber. I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like
They give somebody a new reference.
Yeah, like my younger cousins who like they're looking like, yo, like you can do it the right way. I didn't know. Wow. So it's like it's a whole different spin for a lot of kids who come from these inner city areas where they were like me, and maybe they weren't, because I was very blessed. I was like one of like 3 people that I knew had a dad.
Wow.
So in my neighborhood, so I'm like, that alone, like blessings, like God is great on that. But I have to be conscious and use my influence and the things that I know to share that with other people, not misguide them. Because you'd be surprised how many people come from well-to-do homes and they go outside and you would think they was like demon kids. And you're like, yo,
Right.
who are you, Lucifer's son? And they just like misleading everybody. And I'm just like, yo, you can't do that. Like, let's pretend that they're not even a Christian. It's like, you don't feel anything bad about telling somebody to do X, Y, and Z.
Well, you think about the story of the prodigal son. This guy had it pretty good. He had a dad. he had a brother. He had a home. They had servants. They had
living.
cattle. They had a good life. And he's like, nah, I want my inheritance now.
Yeah.
And I think that sin in the world has a drawing and a call and a temptation towards us. And what it tends to do is it takes you further than you want to go, keeps you longer than you want to stay, and always costs you more than what you're willing to pay. That guy ends up in a pig pen until he finally goes, I got to go back home to my
I'm going
dad.
to my daddy's
I'm
house.
going home, man. Servant's living better than I'm living right here. Talk to us about writing these songs, and then how does Pink Sweats become Pink Sweats? Like the name, when do you become the artist?
Remember I said I wouldn't do it if it wasn't easy?
Yes.
The name came first. I was wearing pink sweats, super broke. I'm talking down bad, dude.
How'd you get pink sweat? Where do you find
so
pink
they was
sweats?
on clearance at H&M.
There we go. Shout out
Clearance H&M. So I bought them because they were the only ones that were my size.
Okay.
And they just happened to be pink. And I'm just like, yo, it's $15.
These are fire.
I need that. I'm rocking these pants until they fall apart. Like I'm talking about, like I'm sleeping at my buddy's crib. Every seat I get up from is sweatpants remnants. It's just like falling apart.
You're wearing these things every day.
Every day. And then one of my buddies, his friend, who I wasn't really familiar with, he came over. He didn't know me. So he's like, yo, where's Pink Sweats? Where's the Pink Sweats guy? And then when I was like, yo, I love that name. I was like, I'm Pink Sweats. If I ever.
That's how you got the name?
Super simple. It's crazy. Like I couldn't have made that up. Like that's how it had to be that way for me, because I wouldn't have sat down trying to come up with some kind of mysterious name. It had to be something that was real. And also, I'm a jokester. I don't take nothing serious. Like everything's a game, everything's a joke in a funny way.
Yeah.
Not like condescending. But I'm like, that name is so silly that when I tell it to people, it's not gonna make any sense, and then it'll be revealed to them, oh, he's not trying to be elevated. He's a guy in his sweats, like super chill. And the first time I told somebody my name as an artist that I remember, it was an older lady. I was going into the studio building, and it was like this huge building. They had a receptionist, and I walk in, and she's like, okay, who are you? I'm like, I'm Pink Sweats. She's like, Pink Sweats? What kind of name is that? I was like, oh no, like I make love songs, yada yada yada. I give her the whole spiel. She's like, I'm gonna look you up. What's your YouTube? Da 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 da. Type it on YouTube. I come down from the session, and she says, I understand. I was just like, I love you. Gave her a hug. It was like she for some reason, the music, it all made sense. Yep. It was like comfort. Yep. Like this is just your safe space.
But then you gave yourself over to going, I gotta wear pink every day.
Yeah, because that's the business side of it. And honestly, I began to fall in love with the color because, one, this is another word. My birthday's on Valentine's Day, so I kind of grew up in color scheme. Like I like colors, I like style, I like fashion, and I think pink became like a cape for me. Where it's like, yo, this is my cape, because like I told you before, I never wanted to be seen like that.
Yeah.
Like I'd always looked at that role as something I didn't want. So once I started putting on the pink, that was my way of saying like, hey, I'm here. Like I'm not gonna be in the background anymore. Like I'm gonna step in front of my calling, or however you use that.
It's like your uniform.
My uniform. I'm going to work every day. And that's how my closet is set up. It's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because every day I'm showing up for work. I got a mission. It's not just I made money from music, but I wouldn't be doing this for money. It's not. It wouldn't be as gratifying in the sense of that I really love music to the point where I would do it for nothing. So it's like no amount of money could make me be like, oh man, I want to be an artist. That's just not my personality. I always could figure out how to make some money, but like I told you, I was selling free calendars as a kid. I never saw a life where I wouldn't make the money, but the purpose, and that's where I needed purpose. Like some people can just do anything. I need purpose behind anything I'm doing. I have to feel like this is impactful, and maybe that's a good. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just how I am, and I know that.
One of the things I think it's been really cool as I've gotten to know you and talk to you a little bit more is how important family is to you. That you got married a couple years ago.
So we got married. Oh no, it's 23. So okay. Yeah, we going on our second year.
Second year. So it's always like, what is a newlywed? You know, we got some people in the studio that are all hitting their. We
lived together during COVID. We was shacking. Don't judge.
You were.
We was living because she kept flying back and forth, and I'm like, yo, everybody thinking we're about to die. I'm like, you should just stay here in case we die. We should die together.
You're afraid, yeah.
But I feel like we made it through COVID. I was like, that's like 20 years right there.
Right. Because you're right in front of each other all the time.
Bro, so close.
But you guys have a cool love story, and even like part of her story about choosing to say, hey, this is the person I'm saving myself for. You guys have been kind of public about that.
Yeah.
Maybe just, can you weigh in? Can you share some if you're comfortable with it,
Yeah, man. I wish my wife was here.
We'll do it again.
It went from like a casual friend, somebody I've known for years, and we always would be in the same vicinity, and I'd be lying if I didn't think she was attractive. Like I thought she was attractive, but I always told her, I was like, yo, when I met you, I didn't like you because she was being mean, not on purpose, but she had like the backstory. She had a performance because she was an artist as well, and it didn't go right. And then like all her friends was trying to like introduce her to me because I was using all the vocals in the city to like, because I get tired of hearing my own voice. So I would use other people to reference my songs so I can sell them. And she was the only person in her friend group that I hadn't worked with yet. And they was like, oh, you got to meet JL. You got to meet. I'm like, cool. She was kind of mean to me. And maybe that was God because I like a little bite. You know what I mean? So after that, we just became cool. Like she came to the studio and she would just kick it all night like one of the homies. Like it was no like weird stuff. And I was just like, yo, like you feel like a wife. I didn't know it was my wife. I was just like, yo, you feel like a wife. Like, you just got that vibe. And then, like, throughout the years, anywhere we would be in the same city, we would just link up, and I'll be like, yo, like come kick it, come hang. And one particular time, she told me I didn't notice at the time, but I just called her. I'm like, yo, let's go grab lunch. Like I'm in LA, you in LA. We go get some food, and dude, she was hungry. You know, I'm a belly guy. I like to eat. So that was like, all right, she likes to eat too. We good. So she's killing this food, dude. Like she would laugh. She was killing this food, and I was like, yo, like you could get some more. Like you can get some to take home. She's like, okay, cool. So then afterwards, I just felt inclined to be like, yo, we got extra space at this crib that we're staying at. You can just rest in one of the rooms. I didn't know at the time she was homeless.
Oh, wow.
So, because they were signed to a record, it's like that cliche record label thing.
Yep.
But online, they was lit. Like,
Yep.
I'm like, oh. So when she stayed, she told me like a year or so later, she was like, yo, honestly, like that day when you let me stay at the spot, I just saw like how kind-hearted you were. Like you didn't try anything. It wasn't some like shifty, like you trying to do something with me. You just genuinely let me stay. And to me, I didn't think anything of it because I do that for like any of my friends. Like that's my nature. But I never really had somebody appreciate it on that level. And man, like from there, I just was like, you know what? Maybe this is my wife. You know what I'm saying? Because she also exemplified a level of vulnerability that I hadn't really seen. Because a lot of people won't tell you that. They'll just be like, yo, appreciate you, bro. They will never reveal I was down bad when you did that thing. And for me, I was like, that was so pure. Because I'm like, we're in the music business. People don't tell you when they're not doing well. And her heart was just like, it was just shining in front of me. Like, she's just such a pure person. I didn't know she was a virgin and all that. But also, we have the same friend circle. So I may have heard it, but that's like one of those things you just don't even believe. Like, I told her, I'm like, I ain't believe he was no virgin. Like, who's a virgin? Like, that's literally what I was thinking. And she was like, yeah, like, I could tell you didn't kind of believe. And I was like, honestly, how did I even get blessed with such a gift? Like, for me, the kind of person that I was, I'm like, whoa, dang. I wanted to be a virgin, but like I said, my curiosity. And I'm just like, how did you fight that? Like, so we would just get into strong conversations and her mentality. And I'm like, man, like, this is a woman I want to marry. Like, I want to spend the rest of my life with her. And we just did it. Like, it was like it once we clicked, it just went so fast, dude. It was just like head over heels. Like, we like a Disney movie in the beginning, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, yo, I love you, I love you. She's like, I love you, I love you. And it was just like, it's honestly, it's been a light in my life and in my family too, because my family has lots of divorce. And that's like something I was always afraid of. And she was like the one person to make me feel like I'm not going to quit. And that's something, I think when you grow up in divorce, when you said earlier, like you're trained to think like, oh, this is, and that's how I was. Like, I was always
This is
like,
an option.
I don't trust anybody. Like, I'm going to always love because that's genuinely who I am. Like, I feed the homeless on the streets all the time. I do certain things that I grew up doing because that's just who I am, but I never really expect anybody to do anything back. So when she does things back, it's always still a surprise to me where she like reciprocates. I'm like, dang, like, am I that messed up to think that way? But it's just my experience. I feel like she's helping me reprogram. Like, her love is like I said, love is so powerful. Like, she's reprogramming me every day. By her showing up every time when I'm like, dang, like, I didn't think, you know, like when we got married, I was sick. So a lot of people were like people online, trolls and stuff. It's like, oh, they only together for money and this and that. I'm like, how much money you think I have? Number one, like, and this woman's she's saving her money, her body for a couple bucks is crazy. Like, I'm sure it's a higher bidder than me. And immediately I got sick. So I have autoimmune disease.
Oh man.
So just her showing up for me, dude, like that was so special, and like she saved me, cause I genuinely am not a person thinking about me 24/7, and that's probably one of my biggest flaws. Like I would have been dead. Like I wouldn't go to the hospital. I'm feeling my face is sinking in. I'm losing weight, and like it's bad. And she's just like, yo, I want you to live. And that spoke life to me, dude. And I was like, yo, I gotta do the right thing. Like I'm not a workout person. When she said that to me, I got in the gym.
I think what's amazing is, for me, I've been married. It'll be 18 years this coming summer.
Oh,
let's go, bro.
You got some stories.
Let's go, man. Let's go. And I think the older I get, the more I want to speak up for marriage and talk about the benefits of marriage.
Hold on, let's do that right quick. Dude, all right, go.
Well, just because I think you're saying some stuff that God has a great plan. And I suppose it was A.W. Tozer who says that we're all moving towards a mental image that we have of God. So let's say it this way. The most important thing about you is what you think about when you think about God.
Ooh.
So a lot of people have a picture of God that he's like angry and he's getting ready to burn you up. Other people maybe think God is some like passive dad who's like, doesn't really care. Maybe he sees us, but he's not really involved. I don't know. We all have a picture.
Yeah.
And that picture matters because I look at God's word and I see God's plan, I see God's provision, and I see God's protection. And so a lot of people, it's like, oh man, God doesn't want me to have any fun, bro. Like I'm going to sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. And, sex is fun. Right. It is fun. But it has a boundary and it has a parameter to it. So like electricity. I'm really grateful for electricity. Electricity lights up my whole house. But I'm really careful with electricity.
Yeah.
I don't put a fork in the socket because it'll kill me.
Yeah.
And there's something about God where I don't think that God's mean, but I think that God is dangerous. Like I think that there are consequences, and God's word and God's plan is actually set up in a way for us to have a fruitful and abundant life. And I know someone's maybe listening right now and doesn't agree or thinks that we're like old or antiquated, but I think what's really cool about what you're talking about is that in 2024 or in the 2000s, I don't know, whenever someone's listening, it's like your wife makes a really conscious decision to do something that I think the culture today laughs at, or even you going, nah, I don't know if you really saved yourself. Come on. Like, even you just even said, come on, there's nobody's a virgin anymore. Yeah. But I think there's people that are out there that are going, yeah, I'm not doing this because I'm some sort of prude or self-righteous. I'm doing this because I'm actually trying to follow God's plan. And I think there's power in this. And even getting married, like you just talked about it, we are designed for community and relationship. And I actually think what marriage does, what you'll find out when you have kids one day, like it actually chips away our selfishness. Ooh. And it puts us in a place where we have to rely upon somebody else to serve us. And it's a trust journey. Because I'm not trying to get from my wife, I'm trying to give to my wife. And the more I give to my wife, it turns out the more I get from my wife. Yeah. And so it's this cyclical kind of picture that we see over and over again.
When you pick wisely.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about that. Picking wisely matters because...
Yeah, because who you marry is either
if you
your
overly
asset
sexualize yourself,
yep,
you're going to seek that in someone. So if the only connection y'all have
is sexual, romantic,
it's going to be tough. And that's something that I'm so grateful for, because that process of us not doing it was like a cleansing. It's like, oh, you serious? Oh, okay. All right.
Was that hard for you to make that decision?
In a way, no, because it's like, this is who I wanted to be anyway. It's just more so like meeting somebody
that has a standard.
That had a standard to herself in that particular way that I was familiar with. Because like I grew up in church, so they was trying to give me the purity ring. I'm like, nah, I'm not wearing that. Like, so I knew, but I didn't know. Like it was one of those things where I'm just like, you know what? Let me see for myself. And I saw for myself. And honestly, I can't speak for every individual, but I would say in entertainment, people tend to promote pain as jewelry. It's like,
dang,
the pain that they're promoting they make it look so nice. They got the, the shebang on, and it's like, whoa. No, it's not that. It's very dark. Like, a lot of people are seeking these validations because they're running from something else. And I would say being married is gangster. Like, that's gangster. Because anybody can meet a stranger and convince them of something. You could be anybody to somebody who don't know you. But you can't be anybody to Dawn Cherie. You just rich to her. You know what I'm saying?
Now you're
so
preaching.
It's like, that's to me what I was taught when I was young. And that's like, this is probably one of the first times I'm really speaking about marriage on, because the platform fits. So, but our generations are so afraid of love. They don't even know how to say it. It's like scary to everybody because all they've seen is people let them down, whether it's their parents, and them lacking in their commitments and constantly, making excuses or why, your dad, he just wasn't nothing. So it's like parents have to be conscious of the things they show, the way that they think, because how you think reveals itself. So even if you think you're this perfect father or mother, and you're like, I never speak down on their parent. If y'all not together, that's already division, because as a kid who's a product of divorce, you don't comprehend it at the time, but you feel divided because, y'all came together to make me, but y'all can't stay together. And don't let them be Christian or any religious sense. We were in a religious sense where somebody's coming before their own God and making these vows. Like, that's something to me as a kid I could never understand. And that's like my inner child always shines when I speak about it because it's so confusing. Like, people say things and they just don't mean it. And it's like, I joke with my wife all the time. I'm like, yo, if you do a certain thing that hurts me bad, we both gonna die because it's death do us part. I'm not leaving you. And she's the same way. She's like, I'm gonna stab you up. Like, she's crazy. We make these are jokes, people.
Yeah.
But like, we really take it serious. And for me, I wish that for everyone, because a lot of people go into these relationships based on situation. Oh, this person's in great health. But then when you cross the line, it's like, wait, is he going to live? Like, doctors are saying this and that, and it's not looking good. I just got married. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's from my wife's lens. It's like, yo, on the outside, to people looking like, oh, man, they live in this lab. It's like, yo, I would trade all of that money for good health.
Yep.
Like this. Because money's not real. It's fake. Like, it's sometimes I just open up my bank app and it's more money. I'm like, where did this come from? Oh, that was from this. Like, money is not something that when you have it, you value that much. Because this vessel that we walk in, you can't do anything without it. Like, it's people laying in hospital beds right now worth millions and tons of money, dude. Like, so marriage, that's what it comes down to, that commitment. Oh, are you going to be there when things are rocky? And that's the thing people are scared of, especially this generation, because they're hyper sensitive to the internet. And the internet's always, oh, this big celebrity got divorced. And they looking from the outside like, well, he's got everything. She's got everything. And they can't keep it together. What I'm going to do with little old me? It's like, little old you can be a person of your word. That's what you have. You might not have hundreds of millions of dollars, but you have your word. You have your God, and you have your family. These are all the people in all situations that you stand before. And to me, those rituals, they mean something. When you stand in front of God, family, that's why they created it. It meant something. When you say, hey, for better, for worse, that rich or poor, these things, they mean something. And I feel like our generation, it's like just things to say.
There's a lot of talking in our generation. Prosperity will bring you friends. Poverty.
Ooh,
Poverty will prove
on.
your friends.
Come on.
And there's something powerful about walking with somebody that you know has got your back, whether we're on the mountaintop or the valley. And I suppose that's probably part of the fear for people, is that you said it way earlier in the show too, like everybody wants love. I think every human being wants to be needed and wants to be known. Ooh. Needed and known. However, when it finally gets time to actually be truly known, we're so afraid that if I really show you who I really am,
will you love me?
Will you love me?
Come on.
And marriage, as you just said it, yeah, people might know Pastor Rich or Podcast Rich or whatever Rich version, IG Rich. Dawn Cherie's known me since I was 17 years of age.
Come on.
And she knows the real me. And vulnerability is a hard thing, because vulnerability is that place where we're standing with, we don't have the clothes on, we don't have the bank account, it's just the real me, it's just the real you. And will somebody accept that? Will somebody love that? And I think so many people are afraid of that disappointment that they never even take the risk to try it properly.
Yeah.
And today, I think there's a part of me that you just said, like, how'd you say that? You said that they wear pain like it's jewelry.
They wear pain like jewelry, dog.
Bar, bro.
I've seen it with my own eyes where I'm like, this is funny. So when I was a kid, mind you, I told you, I grew up in the hood. I'm an oddball in the hood because my parents at home, we don't make jokes to people. Some people make jokes. I would never bust on somebody. I don't even know how to do that. I know how to talk crap, but I'm not going to demean you. And something I learned when I was young was my dad would tell me things and I would think he's old, he don't know. And I would see it with my own eyes. And I go, dang, how did he know that? Like my dad would tell me, he's like, it's kids that you go to school with, they don't know when they're going to eat. But they're not going to eat because it's free school lunch. And they think that looks like poverty. We're all poor. No one has any money. And I'm thinking, like, he's so dumb. Like, obviously, these kids they got money. They got on Jordans. We got the Payless sneakers. My dad's like, no. And I seen it on the news. There's a kid in my school who we thought he was so cool. His parents were making him sell drugs on the corner. And then the news went into his house, had mattresses stacked up, roaches everywhere. And, like, at that moment, I realized if someone's belittling you, it's because at that moment in time, they feel really small. Ooh. So I never do that, even now. Even when I know because I have an eye to see things clear, it's not hard to break somebody down. It's very difficult to say, you got it, bro. Like, yeah, whatever you saying is cool. Because I know what I'm seeing is you need a hug. You need a warm hug. And you need somebody to tell you that they love you and put $5 in your pocket or something. A lot of guys that's walking around, that's all they need. They just need somebody to say, yo, bro, I love you, man. It's all good. Dap you up. Hey, you need some money in your pocket? Here, I believe in you. Whatever it is you're trying to do, you can do it. But we won't give that to each other for some reason. And I only ever saw that in church. And that's one of the things that, for me, I'm trying to take the best parts of what I grew up with and bring it to the world because we just need that love, bro. Like, it's so dark outside. Like, when you go outside, you just see so much. And you're like, yo, not that everybody's got to be perfect, but can we love each other? Can we just say, hey, bro, those are nice shoes? Like, where I'm from, you don't say that. People clown you for complimenting somebody. So everybody just end up being mean. It's like, oh, you why you jacking him? It's like, dude, relax. We so excited about nothing when really this kid is at home being taken advantage of. You don't know that. You don't know that this other kid can't eat. You don't know this other kid feels neglected because his father's not there or his mom, nobody's there. He's just sitting at home at 9 years old all day by himself. So for me, those views, very jarring at a young age, but it created a conscious mind to where I'm always looking, where can I help?
Yeah.
How can I help? Okay, cool. Like, you need this? All right, if I can do it, I got you. Like, I'm seeing that we're all doing this though. And we getting comfortable doing this. It's like when you don't want to see something, you're like this. We can't do that too much, because once you do this too many times, people feel unseen, and unseen people are the scariest people, because they will do anything to get your attention. And that's really what we see online. Think about all the entertainment that we're doing. You got a lot of people in entertainment, myself included, we suffer from pain. But that pain can turn into a plant, or it can turn into weeds. It can turn a flower or weeds, I'm sorry. So what you do with that pain and how you share and spread that the seed and plant it in the right places. You know what? I'm going to plant this pain here where it can not grow into more pain and more chaos, weeds, but we can turn into something beautiful somebody else can appreciate. Me being the love guy and making love songs is not because I've had overwhelming amounts of love. It's because I didn't. It's areas in my life where I'm like, dang, I missed out. But why would I become what I don't want? I want people to, when they in my presence, to be like, yo, man, one thing about him, I felt seen. I feel like he rocked like hard on what he says. He's not a double-minded person. Like if he say he gonna drop this off, he gonna drop it off. If he says he gonna do that, and that to me, that's why I say marriage is gangster. Cause everybody wanna stand on, I'm standing on business. It's like, but your wife can't depend on you.
You're preaching now, bro.
Your wife, bro, like as a, like
really
I'm 32 now. As a man, I'm so awakened to like what marriage is and how gangster and dope it is. Because, bro, how many times your wife seen you at your worst?
Yep.
In 18 years?
Yep. And
she chose to rock. She rub your back, might cook you a little meal. I'm going to take the kids right quick. We be all right. Like that. That's dope. You know how many people want that? They won't say it.
Nope, they won't say it.
They won't say like, yo, I just want somebody to be there when it's not good. Because it's not going to always be good.
Right.
And even if you have money, some people like born rich, die rich. In between those points, there are things that's not going to be good. It could be health, it could be mental, it could be spiritual, it could be just confusion. Like, you want that person to rock with you.
So important. I think what's really important for people is like on your journey is taking time to heal. Like actually paying attention to the areas that are pain points, actually paying attention to the areas that are not healthy in your life. That whole picture that they're like not avoiding it. Like what we avoid, the enemy invades. What we neglect, the enemy infects. See what I'm doing now?
Come on.
But I have learned that any area of my life that's unhealed, unaddressed hurt will turn to hate.
Woo!
In any area of our lives,
unaddressed hurt
will turn to hate.
Come on.
And that's what you end up seeing happen is that, so if I have hate in my heart, what I end up doing is I end up hurting you in the way that people hurt me. So really what's going on is just like, yo, the reason why I'm misbehaving, the reason why I'm acting out right here, the reason why I'm leading you this way is because I'm really hurt and I haven't found healing for that hurt. Hurt people. We know this. Hurt people. And so what I think is really powerful about what you're doing is one of the ways that we can heal is when we take our pain and we turn it into somebody else's medicine. So it's testimony, right? It's testifying like, yo, I've been here, but rather than let this thing redirect me and go down this direction, I'm going to redirect it, and I'm going to share my story. I'm going to share my struggle. Like, yeah, man, I'm going to keep going back to this idea that people like in the culture today will wear pain as jewelry, and what that does is that we project like, oh, this is the good life. There was a song one time that was like, my whole crew's drug addicts.
Wait, what?
What? Like what? Like,
that's
yo.
Nuts.
And so we put melody to depression. We put melody to misery. We're singing about suicide in songs.
Whoa.
Like, so
that was a bar.
But it's true though. It's like we're romanticizing suicide. Nobody thinks suicide is sexy. But we live in a time right now where people will sing about suicide and make it sound sexy or make it sound romantic, and it's actually like demonic, and it's actually sad, and it breaks my heart that somebody would be out there right now in such pain, but then they're drawn to that in their pain. But I think about King Saul, who's got depression on him, and David comes in, who doesn't have a better life than King Saul.
Come on.
He's a shepherd boy, but he takes his harp and with different melody brings healing to the moment. And I think a big part of maturing is like, I'm not going down this path. I'm going to redirect it. Maybe talk a little bit about that, because I think that this is something that you do, is that...
You brought up David. That's my birth name, right?
Well, let's talk about it, because I feel like there's something there that whole idea, like, I think that's a big thing, man, that, like, we're teaching a generation, like, dress like this, and I'm using metaphor now, like, sing about this. You are hurt. You're not happy. And you keep selling me that you're happy, and I keep buying this lie, and you're just it's getting worse and worse and worse.
It's weeds.
Weeds.
It's spiritual weeds. So you said David, right? So I look at things like this. The reference of David can be the people who think they're small. They just doing what they do. You just tilling the ground. You just handling business. But you're not realizing the muscles. You're not realizing the discipline, the structure that you are being provided. Wow, there's a person that got complete freedom. He's the king, Saul. He can do anything he want. Why would you be jealous of this man? Because he had developed skills and things that outside of your stature, outside of your position, you envy. Because you know you didn't have the discipline. Well, I couldn't have killed no lion. Now you mad because he did. He wasn't bragging about it. He wasn't bragging. And that bothers people even more when you do amazing stuff effortlessly. Historically, that's always bothered people. Well, how is he doing that?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to figure out instead of working on what you got. And that's the issue with marriage is in our society, people are looking at people's marriages to determine if they're going to get married. It's like, Dad, you don't have the same wife. You don't have the same husband. Why are you worried about what's happening there? Work on you. You keep tilling your ground. Yeah. You get rid of those spiritual weeds in your life because the mind always reveals. That's why you start the idea of group thinking. Where do you think it comes from? Because everybody's listening, talking, and circulating the same thing. So it just goes in a circle, right in a circle. You keep mixing up, and next thing you know, we all saying the exact same stupidity because we're not being conscious of what's going in.
Yeah, very good.
You got to be conscious of what's going in. And the music, that's a spell. So people, that's the first real spells that you, like, think about the story of Lucifer. He's in heaven. God gave him all these gifts. He used that to coerce people who have seen God. How powerful of a tool does that have to be? That's like somebody trying to convince me that you're not rich. We've sat. We've met. No. Melody, you don't know Rich. He's not real. Like, that's crazy. So even for people who want to say, oh, the Bible, this is not real, this, cool. But don't you think that there's something to be said about the story? Because a lot of people, they will discredit everything because they genuinely don't want to believe something. And I think the opportunity to believe is opening your mind. A closed mind is a dangerous mind.
Yep.
Because nothing can get in, nothing can get out. So you got to start somewhere, even if it's somebody, they watch this and you're not a Christian or anything. But just think about that. Someone who knew God was able to be turned against them from music. Because that melody, is something about that melody, dude. When you sing something and you see it, if you'll watch it through society. We've had way worse times in society where the music and the entertainment was more positive, way less murders, way less friction. And then you got these times. We're in the most prosperous time in America that we really have been. I know people who never had money and still don't have a job making tons. I'm like, how do you get this? Where's this money coming from? We are so proud. People are the most envious, the most jealous, the most hateful, the most spiteful, like, because that's what they're listening to.
Wow.
I'm gonna run down on this person and shoot him. I'm gonna take his girl. I'm going to shake butt in everybody's face. So we got murder, sex, and drugs. And you look at society, what do you see? Murder, sex, drugs. Is that some kind of coincidence? I don't know. I'm going to say no. I think it's called spell. Because if you know anything, and this is why I'm glad God like set up my life how it is, because I grew up in church and then I went outside and I was like, oh, you feel the same things because spirit is spirit. When you in church and people saying, we lift our, whatever, you feel that because y'all all in agreement in that one moment singing this thing. Same way outside. You get 80,000 people in an arena. I'm going to run down on this. I'm going to F this person. I'm going to do that. Whoa.
Yep.
So you telling me everybody in here, all these husbands, y'all not doing that in real life? I don't know about you. I can't listen to that all day and then not be like thinking that all day. Like, hey, I'm out of like that's an energy.
Well, everything is spiritual. The question is, what spirit?
What spirit?
Right?
Yeah.
Because we think it's just words. No, there's spiritual, there's spirit beings behind
Vibrations.
those words. And so we're saying this stuff, singing this stuff, and putting this out into the atmosphere. There's something behind it. And I'm not trying to take this down some angle around secular music. I'm saying music is spiritual. And so what spirit? Just, you know, that's the cool thing. Oh, I'm spiritual. All right. I've learned, I'm like, just because you say that doesn't mean we're on the same, we're talking about the same spirit.
I don't know what spirit
Yeah,
you're
there's
talking
good
about.
spirit and there's bad. Like, there's the spirit of God.
But it's not a secular music thing versus a gospel music thing.
Yeah.
Music is music.
Yep.
But the reality is certain words project certain things. Lucifer is just Lucifer in the Bible. We only start calling him the devil afterwards because you misconstrue the gift. So that's where, for me, being out in the world to say and listening to certain things, and I observe people so well, and I'm just like, you listen to that every day. There's no way humanly possible you don't think about doing any of those things. You already probably think about it without listening to it. Now it's probably 10 more thoughts than you would have had. 10 more opportunities for you to have road rage and be ready to crash out. Because what you listening to versus if you peaceful, like like in the Bible it says God spoke and there was light. And then we can do the same things. So they say like you'll be able to do greater. So when you speak, what are you speaking? And why, and let's just say hypothetically it's not real. Why would you want to speak those words? Why would you want to take somebody's wife and defile them? Why would you want to give somebody drugs to get them out of their right mind to do so? Like, these are all things that maybe it's the church kid in me. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
I would never understand that. And I don't understand the spirits that lean into those things because it's super popular, hot topic. I'm not going to say any names, but a lot of people involve themselves with people who are doing the devil's work. Mm-hmm. And then when it's time for them to pay the piper, they want to be a victim. But your spirit shouldn't even be wanting to be around certain things. I've been in lots of rooms, weird rooms. Never have I stayed around past the time I was supposed to be there. Once I get the vibe is off, oh no, blessings, bro. Love, I'm out.
Wisdom.
I don't need to know what's going on. But some people, they're so curious. They want to just keep leaning in. Ooh. And then they grab your head and pull you in. Now you the victim. Now to the world, you are a victim, but God knows your heart. God knows you was trying to go in there.
Wow.
And that's something that we don't talk about because socially it's weird. It makes people uncomfortable to be accountable. And I'm saying that as a person who I've been in positions where I should have done things because by the worldly standards, you don't have anything. I have no money. I have no title. I have this. People present situations in front of you. You got to walk away.
Yeah.
And to me, dude, I'm saying this because if somebody's listening, you got the job that you wanted to get, your boss is trying you, and you keep leaning in. Stop leaning in. Lose the job. Walk away.
Come on.
Walk away. Seriously, because you got to live with whatever comes behind that.
Yep.
And I always tell like my peers and stuff, it's like, yo, even if you do something and let's say the law will back you up, you still got to live with it. That person goes to jail, you're going to have nightmares. You're going to think about, oh, why did I do that? Nobody can save you from that.
Yeah.
So just do the right thing. And everybody's going to tempt you. That's the world. That's what happens in the world. Somebody knows that you like sea moss. Oh, what you willing to do for the sea moss? You got to be willing to say nothing. Like, what's the price? Is it $20? I'm not paying a dime more. Like, it's that simple.
25
If it's
plus tax.
plus tax. But that's real.
Well, you said it too. Like, I love that story of the prodigal son because the scripture says when he came to his senses, and if we're just going to use some biblical language, sin doesn't actually make sense.
Mm-mm.
Sin can be pleasurable. The Bible says that. The Bible says that sin's pleasurable for a season.
Mm-hmm.
But most sin, when you wake up, you're like, that wasn't so fun. You already feel something. And so it's actually going back to logic. It's actually going back to believing in a God who has a plan for you and going, all right, if he set a standard, I might not feel the standard. I might not want the standard, but I'm going to trust that the standard is for my good and for my benefit. We call this podcast the Mature Me Podcast. And it's sort of a vulnerable question, but as we kind of come around the end here, what do you think is an area right now that God is maturing you in? Or what's an area that you're wanting to mature in?
Oh, that is deep. I'm trying to mature in speaking the truth more. I feel like that's something that's always, it's been a little difficult for me in my career to publicly just call out things because it's like you get so used to being like, oh, it's just industry stuff. And the more things come out, the more I'm being challenged to speak to my peers and to people who are living these lives where they feel small and they feel insignificant. And I feel like when you tell people they're not small and that, yo, like you have a purpose, you have a role, it feels weird because they don't always believe it. Yeah. So it's like a convincing thing. And I feel like I'm in like a phase of my life where I'm being challenged to not worry about the reaction. Just doing what my purpose is to uplift people. And it's such a weird, I've gone to grocery stores and I'll see somebody struggling and I try to pay for it. I don't need your help. Card decline. You sure? I'm good. Pull out another. It's like, wow. Like, it's so hard to uplift people these days because the pride and the ego is growing so big. And it kind of sometimes makes me feel like I should fall back. And then it's moments like this where we're sitting and having like a real honest conversation about marriage and accountability, spiritual accountability, and what you're listening to. These are things that the world is missing because nobody's telling them, dude. And for me, I'm fighting tooth and nail every day to keep pushing it out. That's why I'm going because I'm like, yo, I don't get to really go because I oftentimes I retract to be like, man, I don't know if they really want to hear the truth today. But you know, I got a good workout in today, so I came in amped up. But yeah, that's something I'm really actively working on. Like just
that's beautiful.
Speaking that truth, and not preaching at people, because I notice a lot of people don't understand the Bible, one, and then they probably don't even read it too. So it's like, well, how can I speak to you as if I was hanging with Jesus? He wouldn't say, oh, give them. I gotta break it down to you what X, Y, and Z is meaning and how this can be meaningful to you in your life. You know, your marriage. We talk about that. Marriage is going to be beneficial because it's going to help you shine and polish. And you got a built-in life partner.
Yep.
I'm going through this. Oh, it's about to be a down financial season. Oh, we about to have an up financial season. Oh, this person's sick. Oh, this person's healthy. You got somebody that's we locked in. And then you got your choices of entertainment. That's going to create the pattern of thinking. And then you got your spiritual accountability where it's like, hey, man, don't lean in too much to those things that ain't good for you, because you might fall in that door, and you have to face that. God is going to not just remove it overnight. But like, when you do things that are immoral, and I got to say this is off topic, but I have to say this about leaning into those doors. One of the greatest things that I noticed when people lean into those doors is you were trying to take a shortcut. When you thought you were going to take the shortcut, all was well. But the devil's kind of tricky like that. It's like those cartoons when you was watching when you were young, and like they like trading you something, and then you get home and it's not the thing, but you were trading with somebody that was shifty already. And to me, that's something that like the world has to be, I guess, reminded that, hey, you got to pay attention, because the person you was dealing with, if they're shifty, why you think they're not going to be shifty with you? Pay attention to people's habits and patterns.
Yep.
And be mindful, not just in here, but in here. Where your heart is leading you ain't always where you need to be, because your heart might be toxic. You know what I'm saying? You might have been, you might be dealing with things you don't even know about. It's things like my grandfather, we have such similarities. I've never spent a day with him. We've hung out a couple times. I've met people in my life where they're like, yo, you remind me of somebody. I'm like, who? It's like, yo, it's this bishop, da-da-da-da. Like, your mannerisms are like, you'll be surprised what we carrying that we got to purify in these bodies. The DNA, the chromosome, all that stuff, and how it ties in. You could be dealing with stuff you have no idea where it came from. It came from Pop. You know what I'm saying?
That's a big deal. Jesus lives in your heart, but Grandpa lives in your bones.
Yeah.
It's
Facts.
true, right?
That sounds like some Southern stuff right there.
That's some just truth,
I like
though.
that.
It's like we have these repeated cycles and patterns that we pick up, and a lot of it's inherent. And if we're not aware of it, if we don't address it, we will repeat it. And you said something about just truth. It's like, I just commend you in that. And I would just celebrate you as a friend, saying that's
Thank you.
Great area to mature in. I think we can all mature in that category. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So how do I bring the truth? How do I share the truth? When do I speak up for the truth? It takes bravery. It takes courage. It takes knowing it. You know when they people like in a bank, when they're studying money, they don't study counterfeit bills. They study the real bill.
Oh.
Because the more they get acquainted with the real bill, when the
fake
counterfeit comes, they can automatically know this ain't it,
This
bro.
don't feel right.
And the enemy is the father of lies, and deception is his native tongue. And that's what happens. It's like, it's a little bit of the truth, but it's a lot of bit of lies. And so the enemy, he'll hit you in those different ways. And so we have to get really acquainted with the truth, and with you giving the truth. I think that's just huge, man. And the idea of people, right? Like, yo, listen, if someone's going to gossip to you, they're going to gossip about you.
Yep.
So sometimes we can be like so altruistic, like, oh, this person, they're different with me. No, they're
For now.
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, bro.
Yeah.
Like you've already revealed to me. Someone once told me, it's like, when people tell you who they are more than once, believe them. Believe them. And so I think that the Lord is leading you and guiding you, and I'm excited to watch you mature and grow. I appreciate your honesty today. I appreciate your vulnerability today. And
Bro,
I think that there's a beautiful path in front of you. And I just want to be a friend in your life saying, man, follow Jesus. Keep trusting God. He's the one who gave you that gift. When you give him that gift back, worship isn't just a song. Worship's a lifestyle.
Come on.
But it's God who breathed into us. And I think worship is just us giving God his breath back.
Yeah.
It's going,
I like
man,
that.
I'm going to use this voice to glorify you, to praise you, to give you honor.
And what's the greatest command? To love.
Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor
Come on.
as yourself.
To love. We got to get to it. And that's the mission. That's the goal. And I'm on this path. I don't know where it's going, but I know that I'm on it, and I'm not getting off, because this is what wakes me up every day.
Yep.
Talking about love, showing love, spreading that love, and genuinely being concerned about people. Because I want people to be concerned about me sometimes too. Like when I'm dealing with things, I don't want people to just see me as some commodity.
Yep.
It's like you want people to say, "Hey, man, you good? Is everything all right? Is there something you need?" And these are things that love thy neighbor. Like we see each other. It was a song back in the day. It's about, I forget the exact song, but the lyrics were something like, we claim we love God, but we don't love the people we physically see every day, the people right next to us. So if you're home, you're watching this, maybe it's a sign to just call somebody that you love and let them know that you love them. Show them some sort of outward expression of love, because you don't know what they're dealing with, you know, and that's something that's powerful beyond what I'm saying. They might not even thank you, but just know, like, love is moving their heart, and it could be moving them closer to God.
I think Jesus' message, if you love me, show it to someone else.
Show it to somebody else.
Show it to someone else. Ladies and gentlemen, live in the studio, Mr. Pink Sweats. Go check out some of his music. He's got some good stuff. In fact, he just released a single not too long ago.
Yeah.
That I've been jamming quite a bit. So many good songs. But, man, we're praying for you. We commend you. Next time you're in the studio, you're bringing your wife.
Bro,
I
we got to get her.
I say we do a whole episode on love, marriage,
get
newlyweds, saving yourself, walking together. Let's do it.
Let's do that. She gonna be. I'm gonna tell her as soon as we get home.
You see if she's down for it. We're gonna make it happen.
I'll make her be down, because I'm like, you gotta spread this word.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and leave us a comment. And any questions you might have, let us know so we can be answering those. But subscribe today. Share this with somebody else. We love you guys. And stay tuned right here for more Mature Me.